Around the year 1200 AD, a medieval Arab scholar named Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi stood before the Great Pyramids of Giza. These monuments had already stood for over 3,700 years. He wrote, "The pyramids are very numerous. Some are big, others small, but three stood out for their seemingly impossible immensity." Al-Baghdadi was witnessing the remnants of one of history's greatest civilizations, a civilization that had risen from the desert sands, built monuments that touched the heavens, and ruled for over 3,000 years. But even the mightiest empires must fall. This is the story of how ancient Egypt rose to glory, and how it finally faded into the sands of time. Egypt's story begins with a river. The Nile is either the longest or second longest river on Earth, stretching 6,800 kilometers from Lake Victoria to the Mediterranean Sea. Next to the Amazon, nothing compares. Without the Nile, Egypt would be nothing but desert. Every blade of grass, every tree, every person who ever lived in the Nile Valley owed their existence to this single river. As one ancient hymn declared, "If the Nile is greedy, the whole land suffers. If he rises, then the land is in joy." The Egyptians divided their year into 3 seasons, all dictated by the river. Akhet, the flood season, Pere, the growing season, and Shemu, the harvest season. Their lives hung in delicate balance. Too little water meant famine. Too much meant destruction. The ancient Egyptians called their land the Two Lands: Upper Egypt in the south, a narrow valley carved by the river, and Lower Egypt in the north, where the Nile spread into a fertile delta. Between these regions lay a world of black soil and red desert, of life and death, of order and chaos. Around 3000 BC, everything changed. A king named Narmer, whose name means fighting catfish, united the two lands of Egypt into a single kingdom. The Narmer palette tells his story in stone. On one side, he wears the white crown of Upper Egypt, standing over his defeated enemies. On the other, he wears the red crown of Lower Egypt, leading his victorious army. Narmer built a new capital at the junction of the two lands, Memphis, the city of white walls. This union would transform Egypt from scattered settlements into one of the most influential societies in early human history. The Egyptians developed their own writing system, hieroglyphs, meaning sacred carvings. Unlike the gradual evolution we see in Mesopotamian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphs appeared suddenly, fully formed, suggesting they may have been invented by a single brilliant mind. The age of the pyramids began with ambition. Around 2650 BC, Pharaoh Djoser wanted a tomb unlike any before. His architect Imhotep, perhaps history's first recorded non-royal person, had a revolutionary idea. Starting with a traditional mastaba tomb, Imhotep realized that stone could support more weight than mud brick, so he kept building upward, layer upon layer, creating the world's first step pyramid. Standing 62 meters high, it was likely the tallest building on Earth. But Djoser's pyramid was just the beginning. Pharaoh Sneferu spent 48 years attempting to perfect the pyramid shape. His first attempt at Meidum collapsed spectacularly. His second, the bent pyramid, started sinking into soft ground, forcing his architects to change its angle mid-construction. Finally, Sneferu's third pyramid succeeded, the Red Pyramid, the first true smooth-sided pyramid. But his son Khufu would surpass them all. The Great Pyramid of Giza required 2.3 million stone blocks weighing 6 million tons. It stood 147 meters high and remained the world's tallest structure for nearly 4,000 years. When Lincoln Cathedral finally surpassed it in 1311, its wooden spire collapsed after just 2 centuries. Contrary to popular belief, these pyramids weren't built by slaves. Evidence shows they were constructed by skilled artisans and seasonal laborers who worked in exchange for food and beer. Workers even gave their teams playful names like the Drunkards of Menkaure and Friends of Khufu. Khufu's son Khafre built his pyramid slightly shorter out of respect, though he cleverly placed it on higher ground so it appears taller from certain angles. But by the time Menkaure, Khufu's grandson, built his pyramid, the enthusiasm for massive monuments had faded. His pyramid was less than a tenth the size of the Great Pyramid. The age of the Great Pyramids lasted barely 100 years, 3 generations of one family pushing the limits of human achievement. The Old Kingdom's decline began with a boy king. Pepi II came to the throne at age 6 and ruled for over 60 years. As a child, he was excitable and curious. One letter survives where he eagerly demands his official bring him a dwarf from Central Africa. "Hurry, my majesty wishes to see this dwarf more than all the produce of the lands." But Pepi's long reign proved disastrous. Power slowly drained from the throne to regional governors called nomarchs. These local rulers became increasingly independent, building elaborate tombs and fighting amongst themselves. Meanwhile, Pepi grew old, frail, and detached from the business of ruling. Then disaster struck. Around 2200 BC, a massive drought descended on Egypt and the entire eastern Mediterranean, the same climate event that destroyed the Akkadian Empire in Mesopotamia. The Nile floods failed year after year. The Great Lake at Fayum, once 65 meters deep, completely dried up. When Pepi finally died around 2175 BC, Egypt exploded into chaos. His numerous children and grandchildren fought for the throne. In just 20 years, 17 pharaohs came and went. Egypt fractured back into the divided kingdoms it had been 800 years before. A writer named Ipuwer described the horror. "The wrongdoer is in every place. Men do not go on voyages today. Everything is in ruins. Laughter is dead. The guardians of the house say, 'Let us go and steal.' A man regards his son as his enemy." For 200 years, Egypt remained broken, a shadow of its former glory. The pyramids stood silent in the desert, monuments to a golden age that seemed lost forever. Hope came from an unlikely place, the desert city of Thebes in Upper Egypt. Around 2050 BC, a warrior king named Mentuhotep II marched north and defeated the rival kingdoms. After bitter warfare, including the sacking of sacred cities, Mentuhotep reunited Egypt. The Middle Kingdom that followed was less focused on massive monuments and more on culture and literature. The Egyptians wrote the tale of Sinuhe, the Tales of Wonder, and the tale of the shipwrecked sailor, possibly the first true piece of fiction in human history, written nearly 4,000 years ago. We get glimpses of ordinary life, bakers making spiral bread, brewers producing over 1 million liters of beer annually, and the annual festival of drunkenness where Egyptians would drink until they passed out, then be awakened by drums to meet the goddess Hathor. The Egyptians loved their cats. They domesticated African wildcats to protect their grain stores from mice, but grew to genuinely adore them. The goddess Bastet, depicted with a cat's head, became associated with fertility and protection. Killing a cat, even accidentally, was punishable by death. Middle Kingdom pharaohs expanded Egypt's borders aggressively. They pushed north into Palestine and south deep into Nubia, building fortresses with names like crushing the Nubians and subduing the foreign lands. King Senusret III maintained this expansion through brutal surveillance of conquered peoples. His statues show this psychological toll, particularly the famous sculpture depicting him in old age, with sunken eyes and a face contorted in eternal worry. After Senusret III's death, Egypt's stability crumbled again. The succession crisis was so severe that Egypt's next ruler was unprecedented, a woman named Sobekneferu, possibly the first female pharaoh. She wore a mixture of male and female clothing and used masculine titles, but her reign lasted only 4 years. The second intermediate period followed, 150 years of chaos with at least 50 kings ruling in rapid succession. Egypt split in two once more. The serpent of chaos had returned. But this time, Egypt faced a new threat it had never encountered before: foreign invasion. From the northeast came a people the Egyptians called the Hyksos, Asiatic warriors with superior military technology, including horse-drawn chariots and composite bows. The Hyksos conquered Lower Egypt and ruled from the delta city of Avaris. For over a century, Egypt remained divided between native rulers in Thebes and foreign occupiers in the north. The proud civilization that had built the pyramids found itself ruled by outsiders. Egypt's salvation came from Thebes once again. Around 1550 BC, Pharaoh Narmer launched a campaign to expel the Hyksos. After brutal warfare, he drove them back across the Sinai and reunited Egypt, beginning the New Kingdom, Egypt's final age of glory. The New Kingdom produced Egypt's most famous pharaohs, Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh who wore a false beard and ruled for 22 years. Thutmose III, the Napoleon of Egypt, who expanded the empire to its greatest extent, and Ramesses II, the builder of Abu Simbel, who reigned for 66 years. The pharaohs no longer built pyramids. Instead, they carved elaborate tombs into the Valley of the Kings near Thebes, hidden chambers filled with treasures meant to serve them in the afterlife. But even hidden tombs couldn't escape the grave robbers, yet even this golden age couldn't last forever. Around 1200 BC, the Bronze Age world collapsed. Mysterious invaders called the Sea Peoples swept across the Mediterranean, destroying kingdoms from Greece to Mesopotamia. Egypt barely survived, weakened and exhausted. After the Sea Peoples, Egypt never truly recovered its former power. The kingdom fractured repeatedly. Foreign powers invaded and conquered. First the Nubians from the south, then the Assyrians from the east, then the Persians. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great conquered Egypt without a fight. After his death, his general Ptolemy founded a new dynasty. These Greek pharaohs ruled Egypt for 3 centuries, adopting Egyptian customs while remaining fundamentally foreign. The last pharaoh was Cleopatra VII. Brilliant, multilingual, and politically savvy, she allied with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony in desperate attempts to preserve Egypt's independence. But after Mark Antony's defeat at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, Cleopatra took her own life. Egypt became a province of Rome. After 3,000 years, the age of the pharaohs was over. When Abd al-Baghdadi visited Egypt in 1200 AD, the pyramids had stood silent for thousands of years. The hieroglyphs could no longer be read. The religion was forgotten. The very identity of the pyramid builders was lost to time. It would take the discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799 and centuries of archaeological work to resurrect this lost world. Today, we can read their words, walk through their temples, and marvel at their achievements. The civilization of ancient Egypt lasted longer than any empire in human history. It survived droughts, invasions, civil wars, and foreign occupations. It produced art, architecture, and literature that still moves us millennia later. But even Egypt, seemingly eternal as the pyramids themselves, eventually fell. Its story reminds us that no matter how mighty, no matter how enduring, all civilizations are temporary. What remains are the stories we tell, the monuments we build, and the legacy we leave behind.